See you on the other side. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Barclay with me, Jez Davies. I'm joined with my illustrious co-host and the coolest man in Deerham, Morgan Hewitt. Hello Morgan.
Hello buddy, how are you?
How are you? Yeah, good, thank you very much. Just talk to us a little bit about your day today, what you've been up to.
Today?
Yeah.
Went into the community shop in the Forum, the Store City community shop. Talked to Andy. Always a pleasure. Love that guy. Love that family. Yeah. Jacob, Sharon, Andy, the Bowles. Great. What they do for the community. I know I know this is a bit of a plug, but you know, they're fantastic. What they do for the community and the CSF Community Sports Foundation is incredible. So anyway, that's what I did today. For the most part, I went into the Bridewell Museum and tried to drum up a little bit of an interest to get us a birthday party room or something.
Yeah, lovely. No, good to hear, and pleased you've had a good day. Ady, once again, welcome onto the pod. Thank you so much for coming on again. How are you, sir?
Evening, gentlemen. I'm all well. Less eventful day for me. I've been trying to kind of fathom out how you can fit 40 kilograms of women's makeup into a 23 kilogram suitcase. That doesn't work, so I've had to try again.
Where you?
So holiday packing.
Is that for you?
Yes, for me. Yeah, all mine.
Ady, where you flying from?
We're flying from Heathrow on Friday.
Well, best of luck. I hope you have a safe. Are you driving down? Or are you getting the train?
No, going to drive down tomorrow.
Okay.
Stay overnight and then an early flight.
I'll have a wonderful holiday. I hope it all goes well. Danny, welcome on board. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
No, not at all. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I think it would be really good if you could just introduce yourself and just talk to us a little bit about why you're here tonight.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So, Danny, Norwich fan, but I'm sort of here about that tonight, but also I'm now part of a men's mental health movement group called Say It Lad. We've recently just been on the BBC. It's been a bit of a mental couple of weeks, TV, radio, and it is really around an anonymous space for men. Men's mental health. I think, probably maybe everybody on this call has been affected with it and had their own struggles. But Johnny, who can't be here tonight, launched Say It Lad probably 3 months ago, and it is all around the anonymous voice notes for men. And we decided to do it like that purely because we had been through the system with the NHS and things like that. The wait times were huge, but we just wanted a space where somebody could take 2 minutes to visit, to leave their thoughts, to listen to other people that have gone through grief, loneliness, all these different things, anxiety. And the people we're trying to aim at is people like us, people that go to football, people that have struggled probably pre-season with loneliness, because I think for a lot of football fans, it's like an extended family. It's part of their social life. I struggle sometimes when there's no football on a Saturday. I don't want to go around B&Q, things like that. That is a real release for me. And it's moving well. We now got on Facebook, we've got, I think, over 1,000 followers now on there. Wow. Instagram is kicking off. Give it a follow at Say It Lad. Also sayitlad.com, where you can visit the wall and there is all the voice notes. But it's just going from strength to strength. We're getting people reach out to us all the time that want to work with us. And more importantly, we're now getting a huge amount of voice notes. After last week, we've had them from as far away as Cambodia.
Wow.
Which is mental. The word is spreading.
No, that's brilliant. I mean, just so obviously touch upon how it works. So someone can, if they feel like they're struggling a little bit, they can go on and leave an anonymous voice note, and it's the idea there that them sort of vocalizing it they then feel better because they've shared that with other people that are like-minded. Is that a fair comment?
Absolutely fair comment. I mean, just to give you an idea, Johnny set it up. I've worked with Johnny for 7 years. He was badgering me to do a voice note. I put it off for a couple of days. Person. I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it because mental health, I think, is something that is close to my heart because I've been through it and I've seen people struggle with it. I left the voice note and it was like a weight was completely lifted off my shoulders, and it felt like someone was listening. It wasn't as scripted as going through a wellbeing service. That they're fantastic, they're amazing at what they do, the wait times and stuff like that. This felt really quite personal. I was talking for a good 2-3 minutes around the struggles of not having anyone. There is people to talk to, but I think when people ask you to talk, you don't take them up on it, do you? We're men, we're masculine. There's a massive thing about men being strong. You know, it's just the way that society portrays all of us, that we carry the family on our shoulders. We're men and stuff like that. But for me, it was just the biggest weight off my shoulders. The really powerful thing as well is that I then started to listen to other people that have left them. And when you do that, it sort of hits a chord of that. I'm not the only one feeling like that. More people are feeling exactly how I'm feeling. Hearing how they've coped with stuff, hearing what triggers them, it makes you feel just that you're not alone. And I think that the good thing about our website is there's no sign-ups, there's no fees. It is completely anonymous.
Yeah.
You do not have to worry about putting something forward. Nothing will ever be released. And so far, as I say, the wall on our website at sayitLad.com, we're gathering so much pace. There is an abundance of voice notes there, some 30 seconds long, some 5 minutes. They vary from grief, loneliness, gambling problems, absolutely anything that you can name that would trigger mental health issues.
That's brilliant. I think, Morgan, if you'd just like to perhaps, I'm going to ask you a question relating to yourself. I mean, you do something, and if you're happy to share this, please, we can delete it if not. But obviously, you've been through a struggle, haven't you, for the last couple of years, and have gone down the route of counselling.
I mean, look. I think let's not beat around the bush. I'm more than happy to share my story.
And I didn't want to put you on the spot, so I'm sorry about that.
It's fine. I was made redundant last February, from a role that I threw myself into. I'm not going to go into the intrinsics as to everything else because I don't want to. It's not about me, but it was a real struggle. My dad got sick last year, and you know that my world was turned upside down, frankly, and I turned to the bottle. I mean, like Ady's come on and been frank with us on a previous episode, and the one of our last season, one of our previous episodes was with a former player called Drew Broughton. Now, Drew Broughton's episode was the episode that I realised I had an issue this year. And then Ady's episode really hammered that home. So I have sought help. I've sought through the NHS and through just talking to my mum. I mean, like, I didn't do that. I was like, you know what? Like, I've done this for all of my life. I've been solid. I've been on my own. I can just make this through. And that hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. And then, you know, I had a bit of a breakdown this year, to be quite honest. And if it wasn't for this podcast, it wasn't for Jez, it wasn't for Jez's chase of me, I don't know where I'd be right now. Like, this podcast means the world to me. And it is, you know, talking to fans and realizing that you're giving something back to the community, the footballing community, but it isn't just about the game. we talked to Ian Thornton the other day of the Community Sports Foundation. It isn't just about the game on the pitch. It's about everything that sits alongside that, the community, giving back, former players, charity. You know, I lost that sight. And I think that that's one of the main reasons that I had this breakdown. And also not talking to my family, not talking to people, like just not opening up and wearing that burden on my shoulders. So, you know, and then the easiest thing to do, and like, Ady, I'm going to bring you into this because I know you've been there, but like, you know, turning to the bottle and going, you know what, this is the easiest way out to numb my feelings, because right now, like, this is what I need. And I don't give a shit, like, if this is too much for some, but you know, this is the reality of it. And you know, I have to go from living in London to living in Norfolk like that, and like I live in Durham, and it's a very isolated place, and to go from that to that and having to deal with all of that, it's been crazy. And I know that it's, again, like I said, I'm just being candid, because there's no point in pretending otherwise, because if you don't open up, if you don't admit this stuff, it can consume you.
Yeah, no, 100%. Morgan, I think you said you was perhaps going to ask Ady a question.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you talk openly about your alcoholism on the podcast. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, Ady, but please, can you sort of
I think, you know, I mean, it's brilliant, you know, you what you've done, the reaching out, and I think obviously linking into to Say It Lad and Danny as well, like my experience in AA was very similar to kind of what we've spoken about, in that that real weight lifted off my shoulders once I said out loud I was an alcoholic to people, because once that was out there, it was out there. And then also through saying that, realizing that I wasn't alone and I wasn't the only one, and that there was other people around me that were going through or had gone through similar. And so that gave me something that I probably hadn't had for years and years and years. And I think it's the one thing that's kind of missing, which could potentially, you know, prolong, you know, mental health difficulties that people will encounter, is that lack of hope. And that hope in myself, and that hope in what the future looks like. And I kind of got a little bit of that with my first AA meeting. And what I quickly learned, and sort of relates to what you were speaking about with your experience, is that, you know, people look at people that drink a lot and think that, you know, they've got a drink problem. It was the opposite for me. I had a drink solution. And so what alcohol became was my solution. And what I really needed was a different solution. And so the initial solution for me was reaching out, was telling somebody, and then talking openly about it. And, you know, progressively it got easier. And I'm so okay about talking about it now, because you literally don't know who's listening and what they're encountering themselves at the moment, because there might be somebody that is where I was 10 years ago, and they just needed somebody to tell them that there is another way, and that, you know, it can be okay, but, you know, it's not something that you can do on your own. You need to reach out, and you need to speak to somebody, anybody that you trust. And then that journey of becoming better, and, you know, recovery and stuff like that can begin. And the length of that time is different for people. But my experiences over the years, it's gotten easier and much better. And, you know, I'm okay to talk about it, but I'm obviously well aware that there's lots and lots of people that aren't. And I think, you know, if saying it out loud that, you know, it's okay to talk about it and it doesn't make you weak, you know, then if that's what people need to hear, that's what it was like for me.
Thank you, Ady. I mean, Dan, sort of back to you, Danny. I mean, I think we sort of talked about, you know, for covered question 2 really well, actually. But I think sort of question 3, what would you say are the next steps for the Say It Lad movement, and where do you see it going?
I think at the minute we're just wanting to get as much exposure as we possibly can. As I said, the Facebook page is picking up, the voice notes that we're getting. going through the roof. We just want to grow. We want to grow on such a scale that we eventually get outside of Norfolk. But what better place to start than where you live? Influencing and helping the community around you. I think in the longer term, definitely getting into the football club. Might be a couple of things happening around that. If we can get in there, who knows? But, our target audience are lads like us, lads that will sit or stand in the Barclay, people that'll be up in the commentary box. Do you know what I mean? Like Coote, it's that football fan, them 27,000 people that are going to a game every week. We saw it with the mental health video, didn't we? That Norwich released went viral. And it's that was a massive trigger in sort of us thinking, let's do something. Because we've all been in that position, haven't we? You can wear a smile. The football is your release. And it's people that when they haven't got that release, what do? Do they turn to the bottle? Do they turn to drugs? Are they sitting at home with nobody to talk to? And we just want to grow. We're not making a penny out of it. We just want it to grow. And if we help one person, two people, then it's been a success.
That's fantastic. I mean, again, just to interject before Jez, moves on, but like when we spoke to Ian Thornton on the Community Sports Foundation, like we talked about Norfolk is a very difficult place, I think, in terms of its geographical location, and it is out of the way. That doesn't matter what anyone says. Like it's a blessing and a curse in a way, because it's such a big county, and there's so much space between towns, in the city of Norwich, that people can kind of get left, like not left behind, but be kind of like isolated.
Well, I think we often hear about things like levelling up, don't we, with the south and the north. I think you can look at our infrastructure needs, even things like railways. We're behind, aren't we? We're behind in a lot of different investments in the NHS and stuff like that. We are out on a whim. It does have its pluses, don't get me wrong, but we are sort of cast aside a little bit.
And I think, exactly. And I've had this conversation about, if you don't so I haven't driven in 20 years. I haven't needed to. I lived in London, So when I came back here, you have to drive, and there's no infrastructure in Norfolk. There's no rail network. There was. Now it's become something of a vanity project for certain individuals to why isn't there a link between Durham and Wymondham like there used to be? Isn't that going to alleviate? I know it's not a political, and I don't want to get into that, but we are in this county, we are outnumbered, and there needs to be more. Like what you're doing, Danny, is incredible. It's so important for men who are out isolated in this county to have something to go to. The football club is incredible. The CSF is incredible. What they do is incredible. Like the club is the biggest club for miles around. That I don't care what anyone says. Probably bigger than Ipswich has been, but the county itself, it needs to get better at those outreach programs, and you're on the cusp of this, and you can tell I'm passionate about it because of my experience. The last 18 months has been dreadful, and I don't want anyone else to go through that same experience that I have. And a shout out to on this podcast episode, Durham Cancer Care, who have been incredible to me and supporting me through a really difficult time. So anyway,
I think you're right. I think just talking helps. I think you can tell by the way that you talk that it's something you're passionate about, and already just touching on things that you've spoken about. I've been through redundancy. My mother was ill before she passed away. I've struggled with various things, and I can relate to things that you're saying. There's hundreds of people that would also be able to relate to that. And that is the power of these voice notes that we're having left.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think as well as it, I guess my question to you is there a what's the word I'm looking for here? Like a way that you can kind of reach out to people. Say you get a particularly I'm going to use the word bad, but say you get a really bad voice note and you can tell someone really, really needs help. Is there a way that you can sort of go, I think we should really get in touch with them and offer them some support?
Yeah, absolutely, So it is all done anonymous. If anonymous, I can't even talk. Sorry, right. It's all done anonymous. The voice notes come through to Johnny and myself. You know, we don't know who the people are. It's complete. I keep saying it's completely anonymous. I will stress that point. Now, we've listened to a few that, you know, you do take upon yourself. You know, we're not counsellors. We're not trained. We aren't experts. I think if something like that happened, we would be facilitators. You know, we've been through a process ourselves, through therapy, through the wellbeing services, that we could signpost. You know what? We're not going to be able to totally help someone, but for that person, the interaction that we might have might set them on the right path, actually talking more and going down the right route.
No, 100%. And I just had to apologise for it a second, because I had to plug my laptop in, which is why I disappeared for a little while. Otherwise, you would have lost me. It was the lesser of two evils. Sorry, Morgan.
But I think you're right. Like, it's the signposting that helps, and you know, you can't be expected to be that counsellor, or because you know you're not trained in that. Yeah. And like, since me and Jez have done this podcast with the incredible Ady, Killian, Ollie, Izzy, and Ben and Ruben Clark, you know what we've tried to do with this podcast is not provide answers, but to signpost. You know, say like, how do you get involved with the CSF? This podcast right now, you can tell, like, and obviously we spoke to Amber's Army yesterday, when this will go out at a different time, but it's so important to raise awareness of these things. You know, we don't have the answers. I don't have the answers. I can barely look after myself, but like, we can try to help people and signpost them in the right direction, and that's the most important thing you can do, and the best thing you can do, I think.
Yeah, it's all without judgment. You know, I think the world would be a better place if we all helped each other. Do you know? And this is hopefully going a long way to that happening. You know, it's some of the voice notes you get through instantly. You're thinking, I can relate to that. You know, that's something that I maybe could help with, and you do have a little interaction if need be. But you know, ultimately, it is going to go on the website anonymously, and they'll feel better for just talking about it. Like I think you've said, Morgan, you know, you've been through stuff yourself, and just talking about stuff is a weight off your shoulders. You know, it's almost like with the voice note, the way that we do it, it's almost like you're sitting around a pub table with your mates.
And I think that's the problem. And I don't know, like, and I'll throw this out to the rest of you guys, but like, as a guy, there's almost like this notion that the word mental health gets thrown around a lot. And so it's almost like it loses its power, because it's like, well, you know, I need a mental health day. And no disrespect to that individual who has said that. But I think that there's an element to society now where some people lean on that and go, oh, I need my, you know, it's a mental health thing. It's, you know, and it's almost like a crutch or an excuse. And I think I certainly think it's diluted that element. And I know that sounds a bit controversial, but that's from my experience. You know, my mum in the past, God love her, has said, oh, you know, mental health, whatever. But it's like I'm not in the great space right now, and I almost feel like an element of shame to say that right now like things suck and I can't do this on my own.
It's a taboo, isn't it? I think I think it is. I think when people say, and sometimes they don't, and that's on the worst. It's actually worse when that happens. When they go, yeah, no, I'm all right. It's all right. Don't worry, I'll be fine. I'm the, you know, I can get over this and stuff. Like chuck anything you want at me is fine. They're the worst ones, because eventually it will just eat you up, and all of a sudden, bang. And I think that sometimes is you know, being that sort of trained professional that can sort of, not even trained professional, but just being a human being and just noticing if someone's a little bit, you know, I speak, you know, I walk into trampoline parks where the majority of our staff are aged between 16 and 20, 21 maybe. And it's sort of like, I can tell if they're struggling. And it's just human nature, isn't it? And I don't know whether that's coming from a position of, you know, having that experience of doing that, or whether it's just, you know, wherever else. But I think, as Morgan says, I just think it's so important that we just look out for each other 100%. Just before we move on to obviously talk about Norwich, I mean, and this is for you, Danny, what sort of role do you think football clubs, and not necessarily just Norwich City, but what professional clubs, what sort of role do you think they can play in this?
I think they play a massive part. I think you only have to look at the work that the CSF do around mental health, around dementia, things like that. I think they play the biggest part in a community. And I think it's such a shame when you see things like that are happening at Sheffield Wednesday and at Morecambe, because the football clubs are a pillar of the community. They are people's release. You make friends from going to football. You're around people. You'll talk to people. Somebody might not see somebody from Monday to Friday, but they go Saturday and they're sitting next to somebody that they can talk to. You've all got one common interest. The role that football can play with the exposure, huge, absolutely huge. Players are suffering from it. You know, it's not just restricted to the man in the stand. You know, there's players that you look at someone like Marcus Rashford, he's struggled massively. You know, we think they've got all the money in the world, they have all the nice things. Mental health's more than that. You know, you can appear to have everything, but if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling anxious, it's the worst place in the world to be.
Can I just, and this is probably a little bit close to the bone, but can I throw that over to Ady? Because you've been both. You've been a player and you've been a spectator. So can you just divulge a little bit of the expectations on your shoulders?
I think had I identified when I was playing that I had a real issue with alcohol, which I probably knew in the back of my mind, but I just wasn't prepared to go there for lots of reasons. It'd have been interesting to see how it would have been. I mean, I wouldn't have been afraid to have come out and discuss it, but I think things had to get a lot worse for me before they got better. And, you know, that's not to say that that's the same journey for everybody, but that's just how it was for me. Had I have reached out when I played football, I remember a scene, I think it was Ted Lasso it was in, when one of the players was holding on to something for a long time. And his best mate was like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And he was, "Well, you know, 99% of me was absolutely sure you'd give me a really positive response, but there was that 1% doubt in my mind that you would react badly to it." And I think we all carry that 1% doubt, you know. So when it comes to opening up or talking to people, that 1% weighs much heavier than the 99%. Potentially, certainly kind of how it was for me. And Danny, we worked together, didn't we? And we worked together probably during like one of my most difficult spells with drinking. And I would say that we were good mates. We got on well. We worked well together. We spoke every time we saw each other. You know, we'd in the canteen together talking about football and all things like that. Yeah. Would I have come to you and talked to you about struggles with drink? Absolutely not. Not because I didn't think you were a nice person or because I thought you would tell everybody, because I was too ashamed. I was too embarrassed. You know, I wanted to create this kind of image and persona for myself that avoided people seeing that side of me. And I think, you know, roll the clock forward 10 years and I was in a police cell. So that approach for me didn't work, you know, and things only picked up for me, you know, when I was prepared to be honest with myself and the people around me and talk openly about, you know, what it was that was going on. And, you know, even now, there are really tricky days. And that's all it is. It's a tricky day. You know, it will pass, you know, I don't know when, but I just have to accept that is part and parcel of life. You know, we have things that trip us up in the day. We have, you know, significant life events that will, you know, really, really, really test us. And now I know about Say It Lad, and I've got AA meetings and stuff like that. It's another, like a security blanket, if you like. You know, it will sit there in the background of my mind. I will know that it's there, and I wouldn't hesitate if ever I felt that I needed to pop on and to listen, and occasionally share as well, because it's not just about me and what I need at the time. It's about what other people's needs, and you know, sometimes what they need is somebody to go on there and tell him that it's not always going to be like this, and it doesn't have to be, and that there is a different way, and it will be okay. You know, that's not bragging or being kind of arrogant about the troubles. That's just giving somebody else hope that things can be okay.
100%. And at this point, whoever's watching this, and you know, all 5 of our viewers, Jez, but like, if they have any kind of challenges in that sense, then I highly recommend reaching out to Change, Grow, Live, or CGL, who are based in Norwich, because they are fantastic people who can give you the signposting that you need if you need any kind of like advice.
Cool. I know Jez has had to just pop off and deal with something, so he'll be back. But yeah, just obviously talking about Say It Lad, Danny, but big Norwich fan, season to goal. They go to many games home and away. Yeah. I didn't know whether to do this now or at the end, but just sort of leading from Say It Lad on to Norwich and their prospects for the season. The whole premise of the website is to leave a voice note. If you could leave a voice note for this current Norwich squad going into the first game of the season Saturday, what would you be saying to them?
Oh my God, it'll be different this year, wouldn't it, to what it was last year? But I think for me, I'm really, I'm incredibly optimistic. The message would be simple: give it your all. I think there was a perception last year that tools were downed, manager lost the dressing room. Stick together. I mean, the videos that we're seeing on social media at the minute, there looks to be so much unity with Sarge in the middle of it. So I'm kidding myself that he's staying. But give it your all. Stick together. I think we've got a cracking squad, but beat Ipswich.
Cool, yeah.
Just that.
Just as simple as that. I think it's the only thing at the minute we've got to cling on to in it. And it's been a tough few years watching them do well, and I just want that run to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I share your optimism, and one of the most optimistic fans. Even last season, I was trying to find something to be hopeful or optimistic about. I am going to balance that with just a little bit of skepticism. I just wondered what both your thoughts were on it. So there has been a lot of positivity around the place, and this togetherness and this spirit and stuff that we're seeing, which is brilliant. But we've got a new manager come in, we've got new players, we've got people vying for a starting position. Is that same hope, togetherness, team spirit, optimism going to still be there once he names his first squad and people start realising that they're not in his first 11?
That's the sort of question I'd ask you.
Yeah. I was just a thought.
You're the ex-pro. You know the answer to the question already.
Yeah.
But just something to be thinking about. But it's hard. And we spoke about it on our last episode, didn't we? How difficult it is to keep everybody happy all at the same time. But you know, a little bit. It's a togetherness, isn't it? It's a group. It's you know, it's not about one individual. It's a.
People are talking about a squad game now, don't they? The rotation. I think they're even trying to change the name of substitutes to finishers, aren't they? You know, I think everybody in that squad will play a part. I think you see a lot of graphics online with the strength in depth that we've got. We know last year the amount of injuries we had. Things can change overnight, can't it? You know, you might be third choice centre midfielder at one point. Next thing you know, you're on the bench and you're thrown in. You probably know what it's like, Ady, from that competitive element and how players can be, you know, poisonous potentially, how it goes. But I think everything I've seen from Manning would suggest that he's probably the opposite to the Hoff. That he is really good with people.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd agree. I've seen that.
we did a. This is going to come out after our season preview, and I was very much like everyone else, very optimistic, and I was very tentative. But that's because like labouring the point of after Christmas last season, how it went like that, and I was like, oh, we had a massive churn in players. I'd love to be like, yeah, great, let's do this, everyone. And then that Topic video comes out, and it's like, he's flexing his muscles. Can you see that? And it's all very very cool. But then the voice in the back of my head was like, do you remember that? Be afraid of the big bad wolf, and that's in the back of my head, and I'm like, all this might count for nothing.
Come and leave a voice. Come and leave a voice note on the site with your worries.
But yeah, so I'm just like, well, let's see how it goes. It's going to be a slow start, I think.
Who do you think is going to be? Sorry, I've obviously come in halfway through here, but who do you think is going to be a top performer for us next season, Danny?
I think Sarge is the obvious one if we keep him in it. But for me, I'm really excited this year. I think about Cernach.
Yeah.
I think he looks as though he's been in the gym. Be interesting to see his biceps on it. Like, I think he's been eating a few steaks. Players bouncing off him in training videos. Scored a hell of a goal on Saturday. He does link up incredibly well with Sargent, so keeping him will be just massive. But for me, Cernach, with a bit of freedom and some more defensively minded players behind him, I think he could be fantastic this season.
I mean, that's the thing, and he's given him the license to go and do what he's good at. And I mean, that he didn't really have that under Thorup, and he was adapting to the English game. Now he's, as you say, he's bulked up over the summer. I think he's got a little bit more of a, funny enough, we're talking about it, aren't we? But mentality, he seems to sort of come. It seems to be a little bit more switched on with it. And I agree with you. I think he's going to have a hell of a season.
Can I throw something into the mix that's going to be controversial, and Jez is going to give me some stick for it, but I don't care.
Don't throw it too hard, because I've seen them biceps. I don't need to break anything.
The front of a popular tabloid today. You ready for this? They say unofficial preview of the 2025-26 EFL season. Just have a gander at that and see what club's missing.
Right, there isn't Norwich, is there?
No, am we?
But then do you know what? I quite like that though, because every time we got promoted, I think every time we got promoted, we've always done it under the radar. It's only been like towards the end of the season they're going, bloody hell, Norwich are top of the league here. They're like 5 or 6 points clear. Nah, that's all right. They'll go on a losing streak. We never did those years. So actually, let's just go under the radar as much as possible.
So there are other tabloid papers available. The best one being EDP,
Eastern Daily Press. Yeah. Big shout out for those guys. So I mean, just bringing it back just before we finish to Norwich City. To Say It Lad. How would you see that collaboration happening with Norwich City, Danny? If you're allowed, I mean, obviously, I know you said something's in the fire already, but like, how would you see it?
Listen, I think it's simple. I think we just wanted much exposure. I think if there's posters around the ground, the traffic that we will get inside that stadium of somebody that could just scan a QR code, they're in. That's that. There's no sign-ups. There's nothing. It is really simple. We don't want to overcomplicate it. You know, I'm a 43-year-old man now. I'm not amazing with technology or anything like that. Just keep it simple. Keep the message simple. Keep the message clear. Just get behind the movement and raise the profile. Yeah.
I think a good idea would be like pubs and clubs and stuff as well. And, you know, I know it's a very different message, but obviously ask Angela. I'm sure you guys have all heard of that. And I know it's a very different thing, but it works. You know, that kind of thing works. So why wouldn't it work for Say It Lad, having that just behind the bar, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the way we're trying to be different is the voice note element. There's so many good men's mental health groups out there now. that we're just trying to be a little bit different. I think all exposure is good, no matter what we do. We're at the Old Buckingham Festival on Sunday, I believe. I think it's Chris Moyles is there. The Hosiers, try and say that without a Norfolk accent. They're there, so it's going to be good. So if anybody's there or was there, because I think this is going out after, hopefully we'll see a few people.
I'll tell you what would be a good idea as well is having, at train stations, you have or even phone boxes that don't get used anymore, having them as booths where people could just go and say their thoughts and say it into a device that, links into.
I think we're working, Robin Sainty from the Trust. I've known Robin years. He's approached me and I think we're going to try and get a hub outside the ground on a match day. We're also working with the CSF potentially to see how we can link up with them. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity hopefully coming our way. And you know what? Reach out to me, reach out to Johnny if you've got any ideas, if you've got any contacts, if you've got anything that you feel as though you can add with marketing, web design, reach out and help. It's tough now. We're getting busier.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I'm a product designer, so I can give you a hand if you want, if you need some input.
Perfect. The more hands, the more minds, the better.
Okay, Danny. Just before we finish, I'm going to hand over to Morgan for the random. I usually give people a little bit more notice than this. Actually, hang on a second, Ady, you've got your question. So,
we've done it.
Oh, did right, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Fair enough. Did you turn your chair around and sing a theme tune for it?
I did not. No.
That's a shame. That's a shame. All right. So, but Morgan does have to turn his chair around and sing the theme tune. So I'm going to hand you over to Morgan for the random question of the week.
I like the fact you go has to.
That's part of it, isn't it?
Yes.
Get ready for this, Danny.
Random question of the week. It's my best one. It's been my best one for a while. So, if you had to pick the best lad of all time, who would that be and why?
Yeah, it's easy for me. I think.
Yeah, I know his answer.
I think Cootie could tell you just based on my social media this last week. I've seen Oasis 3 times. Greatest lad in the world would have to be Liam Gallagher.
Yeah.
And you knew that, didn't you?
I did.
Brilliant.
Yeah, without doubt, be Liam.
That's a good.
Did you enjoy the concert, Danny?
They were they were incredible, and I think linking it to mental health, for them 2 hours of them gigs, you forgot about everything. Music is such a fantastic release in it, and it's taken me back. I was 16 again, like I was at Earl's Court all them years ago, just watching them bang song after song. Took my daughter Saturday, which was a dream. Dad's dream about Wembley Way, don't they, with their boys, an FA Cup final. Mine was taking my daughter to an Oasis concert.
It's amazing, mate. I live in Nebworth in Hertfordshire, so I'm obviously really hoping that next year, because there's been a lot of rumours they might be coming to Nebworth again next year, which would just be incredible, wouldn't it? So
I might need your garden with a tent.
Oh, mate, I think you won't be the first and you won't be the last that's asked that. So you'd be more than welcome.
Thank you.
Ady, who'd be yours? Oh, sorry, Morgan, I'm stealing your thunder here.
That's right, you're wearing a Dortmund shirt, so it's fine. Ady, who's your lad, best lad of all time?
Oh, God. I mean, I've got one, but none of you can know who he is. And so it just... Can I think of somebody else?
No, tell us the one that you...
Yeah, so... I mean, those that know me know that I'm a huge NFL fan as well as football. And I was going to mention to Danny when we were talking about squad games and stuff like that, in the NFL, they actually bring on a team just to kick the ball and then take them off again.
Yeah.
And they have a roster of players specifically for defending and a roster of players specifically for attacking. And so it feels like we're moving a little bit towards that. But anyway, team I follow, New Orleans Saints, I started following them in 2006, I think. Switched on Sky. There was an NFL match on. I'd watched it before as a kid, but not much since. New Orleans Saints were going back to their stadium for the first time since the hurricane in New Orleans. They'd used it as a shelter for people. And they were playing their divisional rival. So, the return to the stadium, the atmosphere, everything about it just hooked me in. And so it was just amazing watching this team. And so from that moment on, I followed them, not knowing that they were absolute garbage. Like they've been probably the 32nd ranked team out of 32 for ages. And even their head coach before, their new head coach, went on YouTube and said something along those lines about how rubbish the team was. Anyway, they had a rebuild, not just in New Orleans, but within the franchise, and they brought in a quarterback called Drew Brees. And within 3 or 4 years, his mentality, his sort of work ethic, his everything about him took them on to win the Super Bowl. It was unheard of. Like they'd won it once, and it's the only time they've won it. So I got really into him. He was an exciting player to watch, read some of his books, listened to some of his audio books, watched his interviews, and just the way he carried himself, like the way he conducted himself, the way he was around other people, you know, the drive within him, but the respect, the attitude, all of his values just matched with mine. And so for a long, long while, he's retired now, but he was a real hero of mine.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that, like, that random connection that you find with sort of players like that. I mean, I remember, I don't know if you ever, like during lockdown, the first lockdown, that documentary series came out about the Chicago Bulls, and what a documentary series. Like, I know that it was very pro Jordan, but Scotty, like talking Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, these players that they were just, Dennis Rodman in particular, a bit of a crazy horse, right? A bit eccentric. People wrote him off, but what a player. And he proved people wrong. And as part of this, like this Bulls team that were like all empowering. But like I remember what that documentary meant for me was just the memories of the mid 90s and like being back in Durham and just like this otherworldly thing coming into play. It just reminded me of growing up on the Scarning estate and how much I loved it. Like that documentary was just incredible. I love it. And sorry, Ady, like I know what you mean. It captures your imagination.
Yeah, definitely.
Jez?
Yeah.
I've got two. So following Danny's music theme, Richard Ashcroft, because he's just brilliant. And you know, we've just secured tickets to go and watch him at the O2 in March, which will be for my my birthday.
Love it.
And the number that I won't say. And Ronnie O'Sullivan, because he's simply the greatest sportsman alive at the moment in his field. Well, in fact, yeah. I mean, I hope that he beats Stephen Hendry's, and I think there's one other person's record to be the leader of the most world championships he's currently level. But there's not a natural talent in any sport like that, in the sense that, yeah, of course he loses, but that's more, you know, it brings it around nicely to what we've been talking about tonight. But you know, that's the mental side of him. But phenomenal talent. Yeah, just brilliant. So yeah, he'd be mine. Morgan, was yours what you just?
No, I think just in general, like any coach or musician or teacher, mentor. I know this sounds a bit lame, but we're here. Anyone that can instill a sense of calm and an element of like, and again, like when this goes out, I'm sure I'll get pelters. I'm sure people will be like, what the fuck? But like, just install an element of self-awareness and actualization and calm on a day-to-day basis. Like, I can't remember the head coach of the Bulls at the time, Phil. His name was Phil something, but The Last Dance, he wrote his last season, he called it The Last Dance, but it was all based in Buddhist and spiritual philosophy about just taking that time, just breathing, just realizing where you are as an individual. And that's what makes some of the best sports people. Like,
100%.
Jordan had an ability to just be in the moment, right? I'm sure Harry Kane is the same. And as going back to Danny, like it's about having that ability to just try to breathe and be in that moment. And that can be a teacher, a mentor, it can be a sports person, it can be anyone. That for me is the most powerful thing. Like, if you can help someone just be in the now, take that space, breathe, and then move on. And I know it's hard. It's hard to do. I spend a few days a week trying to meditate. It's not because I'm trying to be like New Age or whatever, but it's just not letting that get in the way.
Of course. Yeah, no, 100%. Thank you, Morgan. Danny, just before we finish, is there anyone you want to sort of give a shout out to, or just plug your?
Yeah, again, thanks for having me on, gents. I think it's been a really enjoyable 45, 50 minutes. It's been fantastic. Yes, thanks for having us on. SayItLad.com. If you go there, you can have a little look about the website. Really, really simple. 2 buttons to leave a voice note. You'll be directed through to the WhatsApp. If you send a blank message to that, you'll then get some prompts. Take as many times as you need. Completely confidential, anonymous. Shout outs to Johnny, who can't be here tonight. Unfortunately, he's working. It was his brainchild. What an idea. And I'm just delighted to be a part of it.
Thank you, Danny. And Morgan, Ady, thank you so much for sharing your stories as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Danny, for coming on.
Yeah,
that's absolutely fine.
No, it's been really good, and we'll push this message as far and wide as we can for you as well. So
brilliant.
Yeah. So for everyone else listening, please do like and subscribe on our channel. And if you are interested in finding out a bit more about this podcast, we are on all of the social channels as well as all of the podcast channels as well. Thank you so much for listening. I've been Jez Davies.
I've been Morgan Hewitt.
I've been Ady.
I'm Danny.
Thanks, everyone. And this is the bit where there is a button for end recording, which I always forget to do. So here we go. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much. Much love.
Thank you.
That's all for this episode of Beyond the Barclay. Thanks for listening and supporting the podcast. If you enjoyed it, be sure to follow, leave a review, and share it with fellow Norwich City fans. We'll be back soon with more insight and discussion from around Carrow Road. Until then, on the Ball City.